I have been tossing and turning on this video for months now. The main difficulty I have is in verbalizing what it is that Adrian Yanez is doing that makes his striking both crisp but reactive. If I had to simplify Adrian's striking to a single concept, I would call it symphonic striking. Many pieces come together to form this concept, but I want to highlight a couple specific ones verbally and with visual examples to take a stab at understanding his striking just a bit deeper than just boxing. Before jumping into an analysis of Adrian, I think it's important to establish the concept of throwaway punching. There is a common tactic in boxing where boxers will throw punches that aren't meant to land but rather to draw a reaction from the opponent. These are referred to as throwaway punches. The way I mentally approach every striking sequence with Adrian is to think of them sort of like how you approach creative writing, setups and payoffs. A great example of the setup payoff idea is Adrian's KO victory over Gustavo Lopez. Early on, Adrian found a home for his rear hand straight. The key going forward was to find an effective setup for that payoff. Adrian experimented with pull counters and a lead hook. But what really worked the best was Adrian using a soft, flicking jab to stop Lopez's forward momentum and freeze him. Once Yanez had this setup payoff read down, he waited for his perfect moment and pounced. The key to understanding the logic here is separating the two strikes. That is why I describe them as setups and payoffs. Adrian recognized the effectiveness of his two based on how effectively it was landing on Lopez. It all came down to how Adrian would best set up the strike to maximize its efficiency. Let's see how Adrian uses counters with the same logic. This is not an especially long fight, so I need to exposition dump a bit. The main thing I noticed with Wong that Adrian picked up on is Brady's tendency to tip his pitch on entries while simultaneously overextending his strikes. Adrian simply waits for the entry, leans back and throws the rear hook, and follows it with a lead hook. The first sequence was unsuccessful, however the second. The key takeaway from these counters is to see how Adrian rolls strikes in place and uses the defense to create an angle to fire off his offense. Both represent what I am calling symphonic striking, but they are two different forms of it. But this defensive style leaves him open to three main counters. I'm going to investigate the two most important in my eyes. First, and my largest critique of Adrian comes in his defensive kicks to all levels. Adrian's offensive countering style, and specifically his reliance on head movement, leave him very liable to leg kicks to both levels, calf and thigh. His last LFA fight versus Estrada is a great example of this. Estrada's game plan seemed to revolve around drawing Adrian towards him and then punishing the step-in with a power calf kick. I'm showing a number on screen now, but Estrada really does a number on Adrian's calf. This is comparable to the strategy that Volkanovski used against Holloway in their first two fights, but Estrada, unlike Volk, was never really able to build an offensive game plan around the tactic, leading to Yanez winning the fight in the end. While Estrada shows us the door, Randy Costa is the best exemplar of how to take advantage of this with a full arsenal of kickboxing. If you haven't watched my video on Costa, I highly recommend that before watching this section. To summarize the fight, Costa sees a ton of early success because of his ability to control Adrian's range. Most of the first round is fought at Costa's kicking range, but outside of Adrian's boxing range. This leaves Adrian in neutral, allowing Costa to go downhill on him. One thing that is a consistent issue for Adrian is his tendency to dip power side. Costa made it a consistent point in this fight to attack Yanez's power side with a mix of switch kicks from orthodox and round kicks from southpaw. Let's first see Costa's switch kicks from orthodox. Randy initiates with a jab, Yanez parries it, and Costa throws the switch to the open side, grazing Adrian's head. He tries again here, before migrating to force Adrian to focus on multiple levels. Randy then switches to open stance southpaw to triple up body round kicks, followed by a fourth upstairs. However, Adrian has developed a counter to the Costa strategy to some extent. Let's watch some sequences from the Kelly fight to see. Kelly early establishes the round kick to power side from southpaw we saw Costa use. It's on the third attempt that we see Yanez adapt. Kelly throws the round kick with no setup. Adrian catches and parries the kick, opening up an angle to throw the lead hook. So within a single fight, Yanez has figured out a means of defending one of the key criticisms I have of him. Now Kelly also established another means of attacking Yanez. Where Kelly walked, Font ran. Let's hear from Luke Thomas on his analysis of the Font fight to establish the technique.
Yanez a little bit, but the other part is that the collar tie. Boy, that was something I never saw coming. That was interesting. The collar tie. That was whoever in Rob Font's, either his presence of mind or whoever in his camp came up with the idea to collar tie Yanez. Ooh, slick, super slick. But he attaches himself to Adrian with it. He can literally attach himself to him. Like, I am now connected to you vis-a-vis my hand. Well, then that right hand just came around the corner and absolutely popped him in like the most absurd of ways. I mean, I don't know what they saw on tape. I'd have to go back and look at some of his other fights. I'm not sure what they thought of there.
I was fascinated by Luke's analysis and decided to reach out to Rob Font's striking coach, Jake Manini, for his opinion. Quote, yes, a staunch piece of our curriculum when dealing with those with punch power and boxing IQ is to close distance quickly with 2 hand frames, arm pinning, or single collar ties to knee and elbow range, which you can see in Jeremy Stevens and Shikadze vs. Cal. We utilized it here because we counted on Yanez's attempting to slip and or roll more with the jab. So Font has shown a secondary tactic to leg kicks that when paired together represent the most consistent means of defensively and offensively attacking Adrian's masterful boxing. What I find so cool about this whole fight though, Adrian did a stream after the fight explaining his own mistakes and his game plan. Let's listen to some clips and analyze them.
See, I started off perfectly the way I wanted to start off, slipped the jab, started moving around. Didn't really stand too stationary. I was kind of moving a little bit more. And I started off, the first 30 seconds for me were like top notch. Like I like it. I really didn't throw anything. I wanted to get a read and then start moving forward. Once you get to a high level, you can't make the mistakes that I made. I made a lot of bad mistakes that kind of led up to this, and now I started getting a little bit way too confident. See, and that one too, and I started landing. I was like, oh shit, I can get him. Just kind of look at this. Like my lead hand was a little bit out there because I wanted him to get past that. Because I know if he got past that, I knew I was able to kind of get in and slip. I was kind of playing with that lead hand a little bit, so he would be. It would give me a measuring stick on how he would come in. So like I knew if I could get that, if he gets past that, I knew I could touch him. So it was just small, slow shit. But look, watch it slowly but steadily. Watch. Here, moved. I knew it. So as soon as he came in, I knew I could throw that. Like my my one wasn't even like a hard one. It was just like a touch to hard two. Watch. Boom. Small. I slipped on the inside, and I knew I had the path for that right hand to land. And it landed perfectly. But also at the same time, one thing that he was doing, he knew I like to slip on the outside. He studied me. He studied me. So this is the thing that you have to take into account whenever you're watching these high level guys. But look, my right hand did a lot more damage, but he knew where to throw his right hand. He wasn't throwing it straight right down the pipe. He was throwing it towards my left ear. Here's the thing that like fucking irritates me right now is that the fact I knew he wanted to clinch me. I knew after that jab, he wanted to come and clinch me and clinch the back of my head. And I'm like, I fucking knew it. But yet that was my downfall to this. I knew what the fuck he wanted to do. But if you see, I'm not moving. I'm not fucking moving. I'm just staying right in front of him. Not like how it was in the first 30 to 35 seconds. I was still moving around. I was still on my toes, still moving around. And I just start walking him down. I'm not really even moving. Even when he comes forward, I'm standing right there, and I get right back in front of him instead of just moving around. I'm really stationary, and that's not what I wanted to do. There's a lot of it me thinking, but I kind of lost my thought process in this area because I started, like I'm telling you, like I felt like I was landing at will in these moments. In this first minute, like with how much I was landing, I was like, oh, I'm getting him out here in the first round. And I started searching for the shots. And I started searching for the knockout. And one thing I've always told people is that if you look for the knockout's gonna find you. I think here's the thing. Like I told you, like I started moving I started like getting out of what I wanted to do because I had more movement planned on my shit that I wanted to do. I got too stationary and I was too flat footed. I was too stationary. And we worked on not being stationary. We worked on movement side to side, not being in place, not being in front of Rob because that's when Rob is at his best. You stand in front of him, you're going to get caught. And that's exactly what the fuck happened to me. And I'm telling you guys, this is not what I worked in camp. I fucked up. And that's why I say I fucked up. See, he left his jab out there. He left his jab out there because he knew if his hand was still there, he knew that that right hand was in position because he knew I like to slip on the inside. And I started reading into this a lot more right after the fight. I was like, God damn it, this guy's fucking smart. And also, again, I took for granted, like, after me hitting him so much, I was like, everything kind of flew out the window. I was like, I'm getting him out of here. I'm getting him out of here. So yeah,
Adrian is already actively planning around these issues, which makes me even more excited to see his next fight to really analyze his improvements in this sector. I want to finish this video off with a broader discussion of how fighters market themselves and what kinds of content they put out there. I personally think Adrian is a fantastic representation of the possible future state of MMA fighting and content creation. It is one thing for me to compile research and make recommendations. It's an entirely other thing to have fighters actively describing what they were thinking and why. Fighters taking after Adrian's lead and streaming their own personal analysis is a fantastic way to educate the viewers, build a fan base, and monetize your likeness. Any and every MMA fighter watching this should take a page from Adrian's book. The openness with which he answers fan questions and analyzes his own failures is astounding. Let me know what you think in the comments below.